Um, 2A. So first thing it asks us to do is open up our script data, which you all have done. And it asks for us to save it. So you can go to File and Save. Of course, before I do anything, since this is downloaded from online, I should enable editing. Once I know it's safe and secure to do so, which it came from me, so it is. So I mentioned already that we look at this and we're looking at the Bayview Marine Store inventory. So this has to do with items on hand. So that's why we have a quantity on hand. We have names of items, retail prices, and we have this thing of category and type. And you probably can tell we're going to be looking up or discovering what the average is, the median, the lowest, the highest, and how many items we have in stock just from these. But we'll be doing more than that as well. So first things first, just looking at this is going to be hard to manipulate and hard to see with this whole category and type thing. I mean, just look at this category, type, and then we got some things that are the same category but different types, and it's just a little confusing to see this. But that's me. But there's other things that are the same type but different categories. So I just think that's weird to look at. So instead of it being like this, I'm gonna separate this. Now to separate it, I could go and say, all right, this one says boating safety, so I'm gonna just put first aid here, and then I'll go in, then I'll go in here and just delete that first aid part off. Okay, but that's all. I have to do that. 11. How many things? Okay, yeah, that's 65 different items. That's a long time. I'm not gonna do that. Okay, well maybe I could just make a new one, boating safety, and then do first aid here. All right, I could do that too. But that's also gonna take forever. I don't want to do that. So Microsoft understood this, and so they made a way for you to do this very simply by it recognizing what it is that you're trying to do. Remember, Excel has this AI that's always trying to help you out, and so it's going to try to help you by saying, "Oh, I see that you're trying to split these two things," and so we're going to look at how to do that. I actually used this recently. I was looking at some data. I was doing some analysis on some data, and I had it as a text file. And but what I needed to do was to take some averages and take a running total as I moved down, and then look for some changes in the data. And so I used Excel to do so instead of going to use another programming language or anything, because it was pretty straightforward. You all will actually do something similar to that in this class. You just won't have to do it with 654 data points as I did. But regardless, it was fairly simple to do within Excel, because Excel will help you format things. It'll recognize that, oh, I think this is what you want. In this case, we're going to split these into two columns. In my case, it was taking the text file and it recognized that what should be columns and what should go in each cell. And I had to correct some pieces, but it worked out perfectly fine. And it took me like, I'll say less than 30 seconds, honestly, to do that, as opposed to trying to, oh, I get a text file, I guess I'm going to write all this stuff in by hand. So in E11, we're to type in boating safety. Okay, so I just told you guys how, man, that's going to take forever, right? Well, we only have to do it once in this case. And so with boating safety, I'm going to highlight E11 again. Actually, I'm going to do it differently. I may change the instructions on this. I'm going to do category up here. I'm going to see if it's going to recognize it from here. So notice how each one of these is separated by a backslash. What I'm going to do is I have what category here selected. What I'm going to do is what's known as a flash fill. And what that does is it's going to look around the cell to see if it sees this anywhere or something similar. In this case, it sees it there. And then it's going to fill in the rest of the way based off of that same pattern. Like it sees, hey, he went until he got to the backslash. Oh, this also goes into the backslash. So let's see how that works here. Sometimes you have to do two of them, or 3 so it can catch on to the pattern. To do flash fill, if you were to, sometimes it actually appears in this drop down box, but I'll show you the main way. Main way is go to the home tab, go all the way over to this editing group. And right here where it says fill, click this drop down. And then you have flash fill here, which you can also do with Control E. I think I say that in the instructions actually too, that you can use Control E. But you click flash fill here, and it says, we looked all at the data next to your selection and did not see a pattern for filling in values for you. Try to use flash fill, enter a couple of examples. So it even gives you a warning that maybe you should just add a couple of more things. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Boating safety. And so, oops. It gets me now. Nope, still didn't get the pattern. Come on, let's get it from one. All right, so I got it from boating safety. So notice that I played around with it. I selected both of them to try to help with the pattern as well, but it was able to get it there after just boating safety. So, which is why in your instructions, I wrote just use boating safety in E11 because I knew that one was going to work. So whenever I first created this, I did that, but I forgot that. So, but as you see though, sometimes you will need to add more things in, and if you do, it'll let you know. But this is how flash fill works. And so instead of me going to type that for all 65, I only had to do it for really just one in this case, but I have the top one up here as well. And it was able to finish out the other 63 or 64 items. So, well, let's try over here now. So I'm gonna go to F11 this time, and I'm gonna do the first aid. And I am going to click click enter. The reason for that, so it stays in the same spot. And I'm gonna do flash fill again. Cool. So everything is all taken care of there. I'm gonna go ahead up here and I'm gonna type in type just so that we have everything looking correctly. Mine don't work. So you may have to type in more things, but actually it should work for every version that you guys have. Did the boating safety one work at least? No? Okay. So you typed in boating safety exactly as you see it here. You didn't put an extra space at the end or anything like that. Says once you do, you should just have to, yes, do it again. And if it happens, and if it still doesn't work, we'll have you share your screen so we can see and try to help you through it. Yeah, let me know. And so as you all see though, while Sandra's doing that, so we can make sure we're all good to go. As you can see, this is an easier way for us to split this data. And there are other patterns that you can use this with too, not just splitting one column into two columns. And there's other ways to even split this column. If you look at the data tab, which doesn't work, okay, we'll let you share your screen. And so if you look in the data tab, there's this thing in data tools, which we will not use, or we'll look at a little bit of this in 4 weeks. Yeah, in module 4, we actually make 3 weeks. When we look at data validation, but there's this other thing called text to columns, which, as it mentions here in the screen tip, allows you to split a single cell single column of text into multiple columns. So this is another way that we could have done this. And pretty much you just tell it where the split is, and the split is on those slashes, and it'll automatically split it for you. So, all right, I am going to stop sharing, and I am going to give Sandra the power to share so that we can see what's going on yours. Okay. All right, so Sandra, you now have the power to share your screen. So if you go down to the bottom of your or on your WebEx, you should see the mic for muting and unmuting, the little video symbol for starting, stopping. And if you go to right next to that, you should see a rectangle with an arrow pointing out of it. That's for share content. So if you click there, you should see your option for your Excel workbook or your screen, either one. So can you do that for us real quick? Sweet. Okay, so let's look at your yeah, go to E11. E11. Type in boating safety. Yeah, because that's why. Yeah, type in boating safety.
What to do? Sorry.
Type in boating safety.
Again? Okay.
Yeah. All right, cool. That's no, not the slash, just boating safety. That was the issue. So so press enter there. You select just select just boating safety.
Okay.
Cool. And then go up to fill. Yep, flash fill. Boom.
Oh,
There you go.
good.
So yeah, you had to tell it the part that you wanted in the first column. And then so now you have to do the same thing for F11. So in F11, F11.
F11. Okay. Here.
Type in first aid.
First you what?
First aid. This is the second part of what we're splitting.
First aid.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And now go to autofill again.
After you check it, so click enter or press enter, either one, and then go back and have it selected again, and now do flash fill. There you go.
Okay.
Are you good to go? All right, I'm gonna take control back, or take my presenting powers back. So good. Sweet. Okay. And down the line, just so you guys know, we'll be doing more things like that. I tend to, well, I did this during the summer because this was the first time second time I guess the thing, where I had an Excel class fully in the same format that we're doing now. And so I would have the students take turns, like presenting the extra credit assignment and walking through, and I would just kind of stop you as we go through the steps, just so I could talk about what was happening and things like that. So keep that in mind. You may be called upon to say, "Hey, can you share your screen to let us see how you're doing it?" So anyway, I'm gonna go back to sharing mine, and also thank you for asking about that, Sandra, because I do want to make sure you all are getting this. And if there are issues that come up, there are times where things do come up that aren't user errors, so we want to make sure we handle it. Okay, so now that we have these two columns, we no longer need the one that had it all crumpled up together. So let's delete this sucker. And so we've seen how to delete before. If you select it, in this case, the whole column, you right click, you can delete from here. Or on the home tab, you can press delete here, either way. Or in this case, drop down and then even do delete sheet columns. So whatever you need to do, but let's delete it and it's gone. And remember, when you delete something, everything else moves up. Okay. So any questions about using Flash Fill? Cool. And as I said, there was other ways to do this specific one. Flash fill is mainly for when you have patterns that you want to have it follow, maybe within equations, especially. It's very helpful. That's how I tend to use it. For instance, like I said yesterday, can you imagine trying to do the fill handle drag down for 654 points of data? That would take forever. You can think that, oh, you're just dragging it down, but that's a long time to drag down. Flash fill, it's done. So That's why I enjoy using it. When it comes to doing what we just did, I personally would have just used text to column. So you know what? I'm gonna show you guys what that looks like. You don't have to do this, but I just want you to see what that text to columns looks like because I think it's an important thing. It's not something we actually go over in this course, but in case you ever need to split up stuff that's all together in one, even if I've had stuff sometimes where you copy and paste an Excel file in, and then you get everything in like the first cell or everything in one column, but there's obviously columns within that data. So text to columns. Actually, I'll just select all of this. Where's this go? 75. Uh, so it says delimited. Delimited means that you are splitting it by something. So it could be a space, it could be a tab, it could be, in this case, we have a backslash, it could be a comma. So here's a preview of my data before I do it. You could also have things in fixed widths, like if you use spaces to pad in front or back so everything looks like a column like in a text file or something. So I'm gonna click next though, because ours is delimited by that backslash because that's in every one of them. And it says, all right, what's your delimiter? So normally you things are delimited by tabs, semicolons, commas, or spaces. In our case, we have other. And I would just put in what it's being delimited by. Notice that it even gives me a preview of, hey, I'm going to split it this way. Okay. And sometimes we'll say you were typing or whoever entered data, they may accidentally put more than one backslash. You can select this if you want to say that anytime it sees consecutive ones, just treat it as one. But in our case, our stuff is perfect now that we did that. We even get a nice little preview, like I said, to see how to do it. And if I want to, I can even talk about, hey, this is the type of data it is. So right now I'm going to say it's text. And I'm going to select this other one and I'm going to say it's text as well. Then it says, where do you want this stuff to go? So because I'm showing a different example, I'm going to give you a side-by-side comparison. I'm going to tell it to go there. And I'm going to click finish. And look, it split it. So whenever I have just text, I use text columns. But if I'm ever I use flash fill if I'm looking at patterns like with formulas and things like that. So, okay. All right, so let's move forward here. So we're gonna talk about how to move a column around. So you will find probably some things online if you look up move column, and they actually legit will be moving the column. Like they'll be clicking this and then have an option or some kind of function that allows them to move, and then like they click on another one and then it seems to switch it over. There is no way in Excel to do that. You can create a program or a command that will do that. You can download one offline and use an add-in to do that. But if you do, it's doing the exact same thing that we're about to do. So what we want to do is we want this to be in reverse order. We want this to be type and category, which is, again, another reason why text to columns is easier to do when doing this, because you could tell it automatically which one goes to which column. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take column D, and I'm going to cut it. So cut, I use Control X. You can right click, do cut. In the home tab, you can do cut. And I'm going to go to column F. I'm going to paste it. So I moved it out the way, or I moved it over. So I want type to actually come before category. Okay. So I cut and pasted it. Now we have this extra column in the way. That's okay. We've gotten used to deleting columns now. So I'm going to delete column D again. And so now I moved it. Right? So I moved what was in column D. I moved it to column E, and it made what was column E go to column D. And so if you ever do download a add-in function to do this, you can, but that's all it's doing, the same thing. You could even make your own. You'll see that towards the end of the semester when we create a macro. That's all you're doing. You're just telling it to automatically do that for you. Oh, okay. Let's see. So what do we want to do now here? Well, now we're going to merge and center our title and our heading 1, just like we did in the other. So I'm sure at this point you guys are used to it. We've done it 5 times already, but I'm going to select A1 through F1. I'm going to go to the alignment group in the home tab and click merge and center. Then I'm going to go to my cell styles in the styles group. I'm going to give it a title cell style. I'm going to do the same thing for A2 through F2. I'm going to give it merge and center. Then I'm going to go to cell style in the styles group and select heading 1. That'll look similar to what we've been doing so far, right? Because it's important to have a title at the top to kind of, when someone comes to it, they know exactly what they're looking at. The additional headings are nice as well at times. So, right, cool. Any questions there? Okay, sweet. So now let's look at using the sum and average functions. So what we're going to do is go to cell B4. And let's look at B4 here. So B4 says it wants the total items in stock. Well, here are my items. Here are their prices, their types and categories. Oh, over here it says the quantity I have on hand. So I have 47 roundabout kits, 32 weekender kits, and so on and so forth. I want to know how many items I have completely because we're taking inventory. So how would I figure out how many items I have completely? Anyone got a guess? How would I find out how many total items I have in stock? Sum, yeah. We're going to take the sum of which column? Any ideas? Yeah. But what's in here? So we're going to look at what's in A. So A11 and it goes to A70 and it goes to A75. Yep, all the way down. So I'm cheating because not cheating. I remembered that it went all the way down to 75. That's why I looked at that earlier, so I could keep that in mind. It's also in your instructions. But if you're ever actually working with data, you want to know how far it goes, so that way you can do things. You can type these things in directly. Like I was talking about, I was working with that 654 data points. I didn't want to have to keep trying to remember what row was that, so I just did it this way. I looked at it once, then I could remember how far it went. So do the sum of that, we got 725 different items. Sweet. So now we want to find the average price. So there is a function called average. So remember, every time you start a formula, you start with equals to let Excel know you're about to enter in a formula. And I can start typing in the word average. And I will see it there. I could continue typing it out. I could click on this, or you can press tab once it's the correct one is selected. Okay. So we're looking for the price. This is quantity on hand. This is item. Oh, this says retail price. So this must be what we're looking at. We're looking at what's in C. So C11 down to C75. Most people, when they get to this part here, they just start doing a fill handle. We don't want to do that because the first thing here was total items in stock, which deals with the quantity we have on hand. This deals with prices, which is in column C. The rest of these also deal with prices. But again, it might not, you could, but it's not the best idea to just copy this stuff down. Because what you would be copying down would be average. And these values would also change as you move down. So in this case, it would be best to type these in individually. So now we're asked for the median price. We already said prices in column C. So let's do median. Let's see if that's a function in here. So I'm going to start typing it. Oh, it is a function. So let's press tab or select that function option or type it all the way out. Once again, we're in C11, C75. Sweet. Well, this is not that bad, right? Let's go for lowest. So I'm going to type in lowest. Huh? Nothing came up. Lower, maybe that's what it is. That says it converts all letters in the text string to lowercase. Okay. I am lost. I don't know what to do next. We have to somehow find the lowest price, but our way of doing it so far has been either we've already known about it or we would just type in a random word, or not random, but a word that makes sense, and we've been able to find a function for it. There's no function called lowest, though. Well, I told you guys the most common functions can be found up here. And if I look at them, oh wait, there's one called max and min and count. Well, min sounds like minimum, and it sounds like it could be finding the lowest. So I could try that guy. Okay. Or maybe if I want to be more sure, I could type it in here so I can get the screen tip that tells me returns the smallest number in a set of values. Oh, okay, that is what I want. I'm gonna do min. And we're still doing prices. So I'm gonna do C11, C75. Okay. And highest price, you all may realize already because we already saw it. But if I try highest in here, it's not in there. But we saw that max was an option when we looked up here. I'm going to show you guys another thing though. I'm going to go to the formulas tab here. And this has a list of all the different formulas that are in here. So many different formulas. Sometimes we're not sure which one we want. But yeah. But if I click insert function, which is in its own group, this is kind of a way for me to search for a function. So I want the lowest value. Okay. And it's going to look for things that have to do with finding the lowest value. Like say lowest value of cells, maybe. Maybe I'll get some better matches up here. If I can do a match to do so, it gives me a couple of different options. But really I want to, in the end, find the, and try this, the minimum value. And it gives me a couple of different options here as well. So that's just to show you guys. Oh, I was looking for max, sorry. But that's how another way you can look for functions. If you're not sure what a function's called, but you have an idea that maybe Excel has something, you can use this insert function command, which will allow you to kind of give a description of what you're looking for. Be as simple as you can, and the AI is going to look to see to give you some results, and look at each of those results, and it'll tell you, as you saw, it'll tell you what it does, so that way you can decide if that's what you really want. Of course, you can also always Google it, but in our case, we know this is going to be max. So C11, C75. Okay. So that's how we enter in those different functions, and that's how you use them. Remember, every time you do a formula, you start off with equals. In this case, the formula we were using uses functions. So then we begin to type those function names. And you will get an option to auto-populate it, so you can complete it. You could also select it from the formulas tab, as you guys see, has all the formulas here. The ones that you recently use are here, and then other ones are in grouping. So if you were doing some math homework and you want to use Excel, math and trig is here. There's a lot in here that you could use. I think it even has something like converting to Roman numerals. And some of these others we'll look at in the future, but there's even more stuff. So like, oh, I'm an engineer, which has some math stuff in it, and some of these will be in the math, but here's more of what it is that I would probably use. Want to do some things with web design, or like to pull in information or to encode things to go on the web. I could do that here. To find information about stuff, statistics, which many of you probably will use a lot, especially if you're in business courses. But there's a lot of things here. So finances. Okay. Yeah. So it's like we're all good to go now. The only thing is this does not look like money, and this total's fine here, to be honest, but it could be better too. Because if I go to the home tab, it's just general. That's its number format. And I told you guys before, it's not best to have things as general because you may do things with those later. So you want to tell it exactly what it is so it doesn't, like say if you leave it as general now and you did something with it later, it may decide that it's going to be like do a calculation a certain way and you need it to work for a number, but it's not used as a text or something. And that has actually happened before. It'll be very rare, especially with a number actually typed in, but it will do that. So what you want to do is to clearly define what it is. So in this case, I'm going to give this a comma style. And there's another reason for that. Because let's say I start adding more items in here as I go check inventory, and this gets in the thousands. It's going to look weird. It won't look as weird, but it will look kind of weird without a comma there, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a comma style. Remember when we do comma style, it's the same as accounting, except it puts no dollar sign in front. Well, I'm not going to have any fractional parts of total items, so I don't need this 0.00 at the end. So I'm going to decrease the decimals. And so now, yes, it looks the same as it did before. Well, almost. It does have a little padding in the back, but this will be better in the long run to keep it as a comma style. And for the reasons I mentioned, in case it starts, your numbers start increasing, this gets to the thousands, the comma will already be there automatically. Okay. All right, these guys, these prices here, we can just give accounting number format. So I'm going to give the dollar sign, boom. Well, why did we do that? And then the other ones, we had the first line with the dollar sign and the last line. Everything in the middle was comma style. Well, because this isn't like a balance. This is not like a balance sheet or something where we're taking a total of these. This is just giving information that this is the average price, this is the median price, lowest price, blah blah blah. Okay. So we did not need to make the first one a dollar sign and the last one dollar sign and make these comma or anything. Okay. So any questions about that so far? Okay. So honestly, that would be enough for most people because we have how many items we have. We have different statistics about the prices. We have everything about each item on hand, what type it is, which category, which quantity it is. But there is some more that we can do. Okay, uh, to make this look a lot better. And there's something else we can do. How many of you would, if you've ever worked in a store that does inventory, things have to be ordered after a while, right? Like, look at this, we only have 2 defibrillators left. Is that okay? You guys don't know what that is. That's like if someone's heart stops and they do that little electric shock thing. That's what that's for. So just having 2 on hand to buy, that's not good. You know, or up here we have 47 runabouts. Is that enough? I don't know how often that's used, but we have a lot of sparing different numbers here. So some things that we may want to do is to actually have a way to easily look at this without having to run down a list of 65 items and saying, okay, do I need to purchase more of these to have in store or to have in stock? So there could be a way to do that more easily. So we'll see that. First though, part 2.06, objective 2, we were asked to select column E. As you can see, everything's going past column E. We need to change its style. So we were told to set the width to 50. Okay. And it obviously still goes too much. Or it's still we made it smaller, so it's not any better. We'll select A4 through B8. And we are asked to drag this over to C4D8. So the point of that is, look how big this is. Look how small that section is. We'll see what happens. Remember to drag some cells. You want to get on the border of the selection, not in the bottom right corner. That's for the fill handle, but just somewhere on the border. You should see the 4 arrows going in each cardinal direction. Click on it whole, and then you can just drag it over to wherever you want. When we do so, these numbers cannot be seen because the column width is so small. Is there an error? Not technically, because look, I can hover over it and it even tells me, oh, this is $989. But what I do want to happen is I want to be able to see this. I don't want to have to hover over to see it. And so remember, if you have those hashtags that appear, multiple ones, that's a column width error. Or yeah, column width error. If you have one of them here, it will tell you following after that what the error is. We'll look more at that in the future of this class. So I need to make some changes here. So we're asked to select column B through E. This is where all our stuff is at the moment. And we're going to auto fit these. So to auto fit, you know you can double click on any one of these barriers and it'll auto fit all of them. You can also go to home tab, the cells group, click format and click auto fit column. Either of those will work, and it will automatically make it as large as need be for the longest cell or longest piece of data in a cell. Oh, I don't need, what the heck? Yeah, I don't need this stuff. I thought I deleted all this. Yes, I did. Okay. All right. So now that that's all fitted all the way across, everything can be seen. Let's change C to D here. I'm gonna give it a special style. So I'm gonna go to styles group, cell styles, and the instructions say for 20% accent to themes. So accent to 20%. Here we go. Okay. All right. So look at something else that we can do. So any questions though before we move forward? Okay. So we're following along here. So now we're gonna look at a fancy display because all of this here is statistics. We could actually probably put statistics up here, emergent synergies, so that you could see that, oh, those are the statistics for prices. But we're gonna get fancy with it. So we're gonna go to B6 and we're gonna type in doc statistics. We're gonna change its font size. So I can do that in the font group up here by selecting this. You can also do the same from right clicking. You'll get the toolbar, font toolbar that you can do you can use commands that are common. I'm gonna change this to 14. I could have typed that if I wanted to, but I can select it as well in this case. It says I'm gonna apply bold and italics. And it also tells me to select red accent to darker 25% for the font color. So I'm gonna go here. See, that's just red. Here's red accent 2. Here's red accent 2 lighter 80%. And I'm trying to get the darker 25. So to move down, we'll get darker. There's darker 25. Okay. And the last thing is it needs to be aligned to the right. So that's in the alignment group. Here's your right alignment. Okay, cool. So all of this stuff is stock statistics, which that can be pretty obvious. They got the same kind of color theme going on, right? But it doesn't cover all of this. I mean, again, it's kind of obvious, but we want this to cover all of this so that everyone knows that everything that follows here is stock statistics. Well, to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to take these cells and we are going to merge these together, and we're going to change its orientation. So first, let's merge them. You don't have to do a merge to center because remember, we want this aligned to the right. So I want to just merge. So to do that, click this drop down and it'll allow me to merge cells. Okay. By merging cells, and because this guy is currently set to be at the bottom alignment, so it's at the bottom of the cell, you see that it moved down, or it'll appear that it moved down. If we gave it middle alignment, it would still be up in the air right here. But I do want it down here at the bottom because we're about to change the orientation. What we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to have it go up at an angle so that it'll be obvious that everything that follows is stock statistics. So to do that, to change the orientation, there's a button here called orientation. So if you click the drop down, you get a couple options. I want vertical text. I want to rotate the text upward, downward, angle, counterclockwise and clockwise. So you could go mess around with this, but notice how it goes off to the side and out of range. So what we really want to do is format cell alignment, because when you do that, it'll open up the format cells dialog box, and then you'll have more control over it. Because if you just use that angle clockwise and counterclockwise, it moves 45 degrees each direction. We want 30 degrees. And so going to the format cells dialog box in the alignment group, we can directly say, give me 30. And so now it doesn't stick outside the range of the cell. You can see that you have stock statistics. Okay. All right, any questions there? Okay. Being honest with you, it's very rare that people actually use the alignment, the orientation. They change the orientation for, with alignment. Most times people will just do those 45 degrees, or they'll do multiples of 45. Like they'll have it go straight up and down, so 90. That's why you saw vertical text as an option. So this is not commonly done, but it can be. You can get fancy with it. So, all right. So next we're going to do is we are going to add a couple extra rows here because there's more statistics that we may want to find. So we're going to put it above where our data is. Right? It will make sense for it to go up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert 3 new rows. So to do that, I could right click on this, click insert. Remember, when you insert, it always puts it above. So I do that. Okay. I could also have done that from here. Since it's selected, I could just click it 2 more times, and that probably would be faster. But there we go. We have 3 rows and 3 new rows that we inserted. Take a look though at these guys. Right, the color's already there. We just inserted these new rows. We don't want that. We don't want that color to be there. That happened because when you insert something, it inserts it above where it is, but it also looks above that and says, "Hey, what's the formats up here?" So I can copy those formats down for this new row. Which makes sense when you think about it, because Excel is always trying to help you, right? And it is saying that, oh, well, if you had this format, it makes more logical sense that the same format would continue as you move down. In this case, though, Excel was wrong. So we got to clear this content. So I'm going to select these rows. I'm going to fix this by clearing the formats. So to clear formats, you could right click, go to clear contents and make that change. I personally usually go to the home tab in the editing group here and go to click clear, and then I just tell it directly clear formats. All right. Sweet. So there wasn't even just the color that was there; it was also the size of these things, right? Because this is 14, so it was using the size of this to be 14 as well. All right. So we spruced this up a little bit. Are there any questions about what we just did? Okay, sweet. So next up, then, all right. So next up, we're gonna do some more functions that are popular. We're gonna use count and count if to be more exact. So in cell A10, we are asked to type water sports. Put it right there. Okay. And so what we want to do is we want to find out how many things have to do with water sports. If you look here, water sports is listed a couple of times in column E as a category. And there are other categories too, right? So if you want to see how many things actually deal with boating safety, we could do that too. Because maybe there's a certain amount we want to have in there, or maybe we realize that more people are going to be doing trailering coming up in the season. So we want to see how many items we have that deal with trailering. So what we could do is we can count the number of items that fit a description. So to do that, I'm going to do equals because we're about to enter in a formula. And the formula is going to be count if. So I'm going to talk about these counts a little bit first. So count literally counts the number of cells that meet a criteria. So just the count function itself will just count the number of cells that you have selected. Count A will count the number of cells in a range as long as they aren't empty, which can be very helpful because sometimes things will be empty. And if you use count, it will count it towards the total. If you use count A, it will not. Sometimes you just want to make sure you want to see how many things you have. If you have an empty one and you don't see it, it's being counted in that, and you don't want to do that. Sometimes you do want to count the blanks, the empty cells, and you use count blank. Count if is counting a cell based off a specific condition that you give it, which is what we're going to use now because we specifically want the water sports. Count ifs allows you to have multiple conditions. Okay. And then there are the other ones, which I honestly don't use. I honestly don't even know what the cube set count will be used for. This returns the number of items in a set. So you have to create a set first. And these others are older or and therefore more specifically databases, which we'll look at later in other ways to do that. So I'm going to use count if because I specifically just want one thing, one condition, and that's water sports. So what I'm going to do is give it the range of items. So these items go from E, it was 11 to 75. But I want you guys to notice something. Oh man, everything got moved down when we inserted those rows, right? So now that's okay. I don't have to freak out about it. We know it was 11 before. Now we see it starts at 14. So in my head, I know it moved 3 additional ones. So I'm going to go 4 and I'm going to change this to 8 because it moved 3 additional ones. If you weren't sure, we could scroll down and look. But as you know, again, once data gets larger and larger, the number of items you have, you don't want to have to keep scrolling all the way down and stuff because it takes a while. So that's the range that we're going to be counting on, the cell range. And now we have to give it the criteria. So in this case, the criteria is that we want it to be equal to water sports. Now, notice that I put quotations around that. That's because that is the only way for Excel to know when you're writing a formula to look for text. We want it to look for text that says water sports. If I actually put water sports in without the quotes, it would look for things that are named water sports. Nothing has been named water sports. Remember, the names are done up here in the name box. None of these are named water sports. The text inside is a water sport. So that's why the quotes have to be there. Okay. And so it says there are 10 items like that. All right. So the last thing here is we want to align that to the left. So I'm going to do that. So it's right next to where it says water sports. That looks a little better. Okay. All right. Any questions there? All right. We're going to do one more thing with if statements or in regards to criteria or meeting certain criteria. And that's here. So I'm going to call this inventory level. And we're going to do is what I mentioned earlier, how we're going to look to see, do we have enough in stock over here? And so there's really we're asking the question of, do we have enough in stock in here? So do we have a certain number of items here? So for me to check that, I'm going to use a new function that's new to you called if. And what if does is it allows me to give it a condition to check for, so a criteria, just like we did with the count if. And then if it's true, I can tell it to do something. If it's false, I can tell it to do something else. And so this is exactly what I'm going to do here. So first here it says a logical test. So logical tests have to do with if something's equal, if something's not equal, if something's greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. And then you can make multiple conditions there as well. So for right now, we're just doing a very simple one. I'm going to say if the value over here is less than 5, then we need to order some more of it. Okay. We had a couple that were 2s and 3s, so I think 5 is a good number for right now. Comma, because now we're going to tell it what to do if it's true. If it's true, the result that we want, if there's less than 5 items, we want it to be reordered. So I'm going to type in reorder. Again, I put quotes because I want it to actually say reorder here. Comma. So now what happens if it's false? Well, I can tell it to do nothing, or I could, in this case, I'm going to say okay, so that I know that it's okay. So press enter there. You get mad at me. Okay, that was very strange. Did not see that. All right, well, it's 2:15, so this is good because it looks like my Excel broke, so I'll have to take a look at it, see what happened. And so we'll continue this on Tuesday, and I'll have to do some research to see what happened here because it stopped working. Um, so yeah, are there any questions before we all head out? Oh, thank you. Awesome. So you guys finish up 1G if you haven't. You have a great one too. Thanks for coming in from your job. Um, taking a break with us. So yeah, if you guys have any questions over the weekend, feel free to contact me. I'll try my best to stay on top of that to get back to y'all. But you all have fun with 1G and getting started with this. You may finish 2A before we see it. So see you all. Have a good weekend.